Hello, it's Aaron.
Hey, Aaron, it's Rich and Ty. I'm sitting out in your parking lot. We got an appointment.
Hey, you want to meet me at the gate?
I'm Rich Levene, and this is Meet Me at the Gate, where we're not just talking theory, we're tackling real-world problems head-on, driving solutions that supercharge productivity and team dynamics. Every episode is a journey towards improvement, empowering you, the manager, to lead with innovation and confidence. Join us to transform everyday roadblocks into highways for success.
I'm car certified, which I got through going through Auction Academy, which is a great program. It's a 2-year program. Every quarter we went to a different location, a different auction. We did tours with the GM and their operations manager, learned how they process vehicles through the auction, got a lot of good ideas to take back to our locations. Met a lot of really good colleagues in the program. There's like 30 of us that was in the class, one of the biggest classes they've ever had. A lot of those guys were still in touch today, asking questions of anything that we need throughout the auction. If they have something that they come up with, especially in arbitration, is kind of where we backfeed through a lot because we have a car that we have a certain issue with that we've never seen before. If we kind of call on each other and help each other out. So it's kind of cool. Been really good.
Sweet. So you covered 3 things I found super interesting. One, your iCar certified?
Yes, sir.
You went through Auction Academy and you're trying to solve problems through arbitration. And that's what this shows here is what we're here to do is we're here to help other managers at other auctions in the auto remarketing industry. And it's sometimes outside. That's why we got Ty, the transportation guy. Transportation touches the auctions and what we can do to help managers. So with that, I'm going to throw it at Ty and say, Ty, who the heck are you and why the heck are you here on Meet Me at the Gate?
I'm Ty, the transport guy. Started a transport company with a 1-ton and a 3-car, little wedge. First year, lost a lot of money. And by my 7th year, I had 20 semis that haul 9 cars at a time. What I'm excited about really is getting to know Aaron and what Aaron does.
I started at Flint Auto Auction, which was an independent auction. And then they got purchased by Odessa in 2015. So then I worked for Odessa for a couple years. And then after they were purchased by Carvana, I switched over to Fastlane Auto Exchange, which is now.
So when it was originally Fastlane, that was the original, is that right?
First was Flint Auto Auction.
Flint Auto Auction. So Flint Auto Auction, that's where you start. You're just some guy who's looking for a job. And what was your actual role at Flint Auto Auction when you first got in there?
I originally started Flint Auto Auction owned this other company, which was called Inviso, which we were.
Inviso.
Yep, we were a third-party inspection company. We did GM rental inspections. And then we also did Ally off-lease inspections at the dealerships. So I started as an inspector for them, just would go to different dealerships, inspect vehicles, after the customer returned the vehicle. So I started there. And then after roughly a year there, I became like a lot supervisor because we had a lot as well, like a marshaling yard where Ally would dump a bunch of cars at. So I was in charge of that lot. And then as Inviso grew, we had a lot more locations across the country. Different auction locations from Florida to Texas to, California. So I became their trainer and I trained all the inspectors across the country. So once we open a new site, I'd go help get the site started, train the inspectors on how to inspect a vehicle per the GM guidelines or Ally guidelines. And then went from there to they added auditing into there. So I'd go across and do audits of all our inspectors across the country and get ready for like GM and stuff to come in and do a full blown audit on us to make sure we're still doing what they wanted.
Yeah. So this is interesting because I'm going to guess when you originally started that you didn't have apps on your phones and technology coming out the wazoo.
Nope. We had, when I first started inspecting, we were on pen and paper. We had a
pen and paper
view of the vehicle. And we put, S on the fender for a scratch, a D on the fender for a dent, and kind of like go from there, And now we're, full blown right on our computer or right on our iPhones, or Androids.
So I think I remember when this was going on, and I was on the banking or the lending side and doing repos, and I remember getting these CRs that would come through the fax machine, and I'll be honest with you, I thought they were totally crap. So I took a garbage can out from underneath my desk at the office, and I set it right next to the fax machine because the auctions would send me all their CRs, and I took the tray off so that when the CRs would come in, they'd go straight in the garbage can. boss comes over one day and says, "What are you doing?" I says, "I'm throwing away the trash." He goes, "But those are condition reports." I says, "Yeah, but I'm going to go walk them all. These are crap." So, and then we'd get the repo CRs, or we'd get them from the transportation one. And these guys are the most ingenious people I've ever met. So they take a picture of the car, and let's say the car is just, it's a mess. There's something wrong on every panel. So they would like circle the whole car and write D&S 360, and they'd be done with it. And I'm like, what the hell is this supposed to tell me? Now you know why the CRs went into the waste can. I probably recycled them. I was a little bit green back then.
Well, they're a little, barbaric back then, right? The detail was not there, obviously, but that was how my CR days started, was on pen and paper.
All right, so let's go here. Let's help out new managers or managers that are working at auctions that do not have the experience that you have, Aaron. So Ty, for example, Ty's just starting. He doesn't have the experience of the auction that you and I do. What have you seen change, and what's working really well now from like when you started to where we're at now? And how would, let's tie this back to let's help a manager. Let's help Ty out. Let's give him a little history of the CR.
All right. So it's the CRs, like I was saying, we started on pen and paper, and it was just an S or a D for, scratch for S, and D for dent, and R for repaint, and then and back then, like, if they had an engine light on, we wouldn't even do the inspection. We would just, we'd reject the vehicle because they had engine light. Or over time, they went from that to full blown, like, we had laptops that we carried around. It was like the Panasonic Toughbook, right? And heavier as hell. So we carried that around with a camera that was tied to a USB cord, and then we started breaking down the car, right? So then we can actually, damage lines are a lot more informational, right? It's like front bumper cracked 4 inches. Then we can actually take a picture. So like the banks and the lenders and et cetera could actually see what the damages were, right? And see if they wanted to help them.
Wait a minute. This is good, because I'm thinking, okay, who needs this? This is before online sales, online auctions.
Yes.
So we're talking about doing a CR, which is a condition report, pre-technology, pre-online sale. I mean, 2000, they were doing online sales, right? But it wasn't as big as it is today. Is that fair?
Ty, those tough books is technology. When those things came out, we thought we were the shit. Hey, we've got laptops that we can carry out on the lot. This was cool stuff. So there's your technology. We were one step above sticks and stones.
Yeah. And they're weather resistant.
Who wants it?
Really cool, right?
Yeah, they were weather resistant as long as it was 70 degrees and sunny.
Yeah. Up here in Michigan, when it gets
I'm trying to figure out. So,
very good.
Yeah. Who wants this condition report, and why? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm the manager, right? I want to know who's making me do this, and why am I paying for this? Because you're saying this is a third-party company that's running around doing condition reports, inspections for GM. What did you say? Ally and GM?
Or at that time when I first started, it was GMAC still, and then they switched to Ally over the years. So what they were using the inspection for was 2 reasons. They were using it to be able to charge back the customer that rented that vehicle, right? That leased that vehicle. So these are all off-lease vehicles. What they're doing is they had rules. Anything over 2 inches, like a 2-inch dent on a door panel or what have you, was chargeable to the customer. Our CRs would provide GMAC with that information. Say you had a 5-inch dent on this left front door, right? Now the customer is going to get dinged for that as a charge because they didn't uphold their contract, or the tire the 3
All right.
hits.
So Aaron, was this the AD006?
Yes.
That's code Ty for
the old AD.
That's code Ty for General Motors Condition Report. And of course, everybody had a code. And if we're going to talk about leadership, let's tie this over. So I just said AD006. I just eliminated everybody that was listening, because if you understand an acronym, you're included. If you don't understand an acronym, you're excluded, which is why I don't like acronyms, because not everybody gets it. So that was the General Motors Condition Report. But everybody in the industry would say, hey, where's my AD006? And if you didn't know and you couldn't produce it, they would look at you like you were a moron, like an idiot.
Right.
You're going to get fired.
Pretty much. Yeah. You were one step away if you didn't know what an AD006 was.
Yeah, didn't know what that was.
You're done.
Yeah.
Next. Jeez, dude, that's hilarious. Whoever's watching this, to me, it's like, okay, well, who came up with this? Okay, so now we know who came up with it. It's the people, the lender, the finance, and they're protecting their investment, which is an asset. It's a vehicle. So now we've created this, we'll call it a job, whatever we want to call it. But so we have condition report or inspectors, and that's what Aaron is. And this is how Aaron started. He's going out and doing these inspections. And again, today, this is a really hot topic. Am I right?
Yes. It's
inspections, condition reports, huge hot topic.
It's been a hot topic since day one, honestly. And we've come right now what we're talking about is look how far we've come from pens and papers. And Aaron, let me guess, you've had some days in Michigan when the ballpoint pen froze and you couldn't actually write a CR.
Right. Exactly. I mean, or your fingers are too numb. You can't move the pen. But yeah, it was a rough go, right? To now to where like we're using, we went from the Panasonic Toughbook to using our iPhone. The app is broken down into that now. So and it's a lot easier for an inspector to less equipment.
So what's that app?
It's
what's that app that you're using?
Our app is through Xterra. Xterra is the company that produces our app. There's several out there. You got, Visal has, or not Invisal, but OpenLane has their own app. ACV has their own app. There's, all these companies have their own inspection apps. But to be honest with you, they're pretty much mirror image of each other because, all the information is pretty much uniform across the board, right? So, cracked front bumper is a cracked front bumper.
But now today, sorry to interrupt you, but today they have so I'm going to assume, help me if I'm wrong, but the image, the photo, that's priceless. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So now you've got companies like a UVI, Black Widow, Spiro. I go to these conferences, everybody's got use our photo. And I think, okay, you can get the photo and I see the value of the photo and the speed. You don't have to worry about the weather. You don't have to worry. All this stuff. Is the guy going to show up today to take the photos? But the photo seems to be a really important part of the CR process today. Was it that important back then, the photo?
It was, as far as like the lenders were really critical on the photos because we had because they had to kind of prove that it was over 2 inches, right? The Ally. So the photo was, so we had what they called wear squares, and it was a 4-inch magnet that had a ruler on one side and a 2-inch hole in the center. So that was your gauge. Every photo had to have that wear square next to the damage and then your photo. That was their proof. That was their way of charging the customer. So it would hold up in court, right? if it went to that.
Oh yeah.
But nowadays the photo is huge, just along with
big deal.
And I think, but with all that, now you integrate what they call auto grade, which is a hotter topic for dealers and buyers than the CR itself, right? Because auto grade, back in the day when we were grading these cars, it was we had this rough idea of a 0 was an NOP car, a 5 was a perfect car, right? And anything in between. Now, with auto grade, we just put in the damages, and the system uses the algorithm and comes up with a grade of 3.2 or 4.8. Now you got these buyers that are online that look at this auto grade, and they can easily just select, okay, I'm going to look at every car that's 3.0 and higher, right? And that's what they look at. They don't look at that 2.8. That's probably a really good car, but that's just their mentality. They want 3.0 or higher. So auto grade has become an even bigger in my world over dealing with customers and stuff. The auto grade is huge, and I'm not a big fan of auto grade, but it is what it is. I mean, it's an industry standard, and we have to use it.
Well, I think with everything, there's a lot of things we can improve, and auto grade is one of those pieces. And you hit it perfectly. It's okay, so now you've got a car that's really good, and it may show a 2.8. Somebody else might think it's a 3.2. You might think it's a 3.5. I might think it's a 2.7. And that's the subjectivity that comes out of this. What we're trying to is, why do we have to quantify everything we do in the world? How many steps did you walk today? How many calories did you eat today? How many CRs did you do today? How many cars did you check in today? How much money did you make? How many cars did you sell? It goes over and over, and we got to quantify everything. And now we're trying to take something such as, we've gone from, you talked about it, from pencil and paper, pens freezing on the lot, and fingers going numb, writing a S or a D or an R on a CR, to now we actually have to have an exact science behind this and say, hey, this car at the end of the day is a 3.1 or a 2.8. And I honestly think it's kind of like a lot of crap. And what I'm hoping for and would love to see is, a lot of people poo-poo on artificial intelligence. But if you take an iPhone camera and you walk around the car, The technology behind and the sophistication behind that simple iPhone camera will actually tell you based off of light refraction how big a dent is, how long a scratch is. Has the panel been repainted? And so as an industry, is there a place? And I'm not asking to replace condition report writers. I'm asking to assist us to become more consistent. And then I'll get on my high horse again. Consistency, accuracy, transparency. If we have consistent CRs, what are we going to do? We're going to sell more cars. If we have accurate CRs, what are we going to do? We're going to sell more cars. If we're transparent and it says exactly what it is, we're going to sell more cars. Consistency, accuracy, and transparency builds up more trust. That's where I think we've got to get as an industry with CRs.
As a manager of CR writers, that's my biggest battle, right? Of getting the CR writers to write this car A the same as, Joey and Bobby could write that car the same, right? If they write it, it's going to be a 3-1, 3-1 both times. That's the hardest thing. And within that industry, these dealers and what they want is like, they'll buy this car at one auction, and it's a 3.8, and it gets to my auction, and we write it, and now it's a 2.8. Like this auction might have missed something, or vice. It's not that we're calling it harder, we just call more probably, and that's their biggest gripe. It's like, I bought this at a 3.8 money, right? Now you want me to sell it at 2.8 money? I'm losing money automatically. Like it doesn't work. That's funny because it reminds me of car hauler days. When we used to have chains, and you'd have to put the chain underneath the frame somewhere to get it to hook. And I would always have guys who would accidentally put in the hole that looks like the frame, but it's not. It's that sheet metal, and it would rip it. So we would take it to the auction, drop it off. The auction would get it to do what was it called before? The pre-sale inspection. Do you remember that, Rich?
Yes.
Everybody had a different name for it.
Yeah.
So you get there, and anyway, they put it up on the rack, and they see that the chain put this rip in it, and now it's frame damage. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's frame damage. And it's almost like when I'm hearing this story, I'm thinking about that situation. The CR can actually make that car no good anymore anywhere.
Correct.
I mean, that's the power of the CR. So as you're doing this, I'm thinking, okay, well, this is all, to me, it's all subjective. Because if I'm a dealer and I'm going to buy a car online and it says 3 whatever, when I get it, it could be actually for me in my world, my customer, it could be a 5. Or I get it and I look at it and I'm like, whoa, that's a 2. So then you slide over into arbitration. Am I right?
Yes.
that word. I said that word is arbitration. It's a fun word. No, this is where we help fix problems right here, arbitration. Because arbitration for even a transport guy is pain. I mean, generally equals money because I picked it up at the auction, dropped it off at the dealership, and 9 times out of 10 I'm going to pick it back up from the dealership and take it back to the auction, so I'm making money. But to get to that place is, if you hear the story, the backstory, which you always get it from the dealer. He's telling you what a piece of crap it is, and the auction's like, man, this guy's crazy. So trying to get these two to meet, and I think that's what Meet Me at the Gate's all about. How do we navigate this? Yeah, arbitration, it's fun, right? So, like, especially when it goes to the CRs, we find it more of like when they buy it online, right? If they buy a car online and they're saying we say it's a 3.8, and it, just like you said, it gets to your lot and you look at it and you're like, man, they missed this and that, or what have you, and in your mind it's really a 2.8, right? And you've paid 3.8 money, and now we're looking at it, the guy wants money for it, right? Or money off, or he doesn't want the vehicle at all because, like, now he's lost his buyer. So it's like so you take a look at it, right? So, like, say you bought the car in Missouri and I'm in Michigan. Now I have a car sitting in Missouri that customer don't want, or he wants a few grand off because we called it wrong. What do you do? Do we bring the car back and pay the transportation fee all over again, which you would probably love? Yeah. Or do we just settle and give him part of the money back that he wants and just let the car kind of go on its merry way, which would be the easier way, right? And I think dealers know that too, though, and they play that, especially when there's a lot of distance involved. And I always say you got to love the dealer. Right. Yeah. So as you look at that, go ahead, Rich.
Aaron, help other managers out here. So you help obviously with the CRs and then the arbitration. You got a ton of experience. Somebody has this exact scenario, and listeners are hearing this. Hey, you wrote this as a 3.8 and it's only a 3.2 and I paid, or it's only a 2.8 and I paid all this extra money. I need you to fix it. What advice are you going to give to another CR writer that's out there, or CR manager, arbitration manager? How do we solve this issue?
What we normally do is I'll ask that dealer, if it was, for instance, say that we missed some damage on a vehicle. I'll have the dealer send me photos of the vehicle. Send me the damages that we missed, so I can verify that that damage is there and that we did not call that first. And then
the transport guy didn't do it.
make sure that guy.
That's usually the first phone call. Hey.
Right.
Hey, Ty, you owe me some money.
Yeah.
When this car left my auction, Ty, it was a 3.8. Now it's a 3.2. It's your fault.
Yeah.
You're the transport guy.
The car hauler guys, the smart car hauler guys have figured out you take a lot of pictures before you even put that thing on the trailer. So now we've got pictures. So Aaron calls me, the dealer calls Aaron, hey, this car's messed up, man. Aaron's first thought is, okay, well, that's a long way away. Who hauled it? Give me the transport guy's name and number now, quick. Am I right?
Correct. We'll start there.
So you first phone, send me the picture. So hey, dealers.
I'll have like I was saying, I'll have the dealer send me photos. And then if it is something that we legitimately missed, or it was something by the, that looks like it was freshly done by the transporter, then then I'd be making a phone call to Ty and saying, hey, something happened here, help us out. Or if it was something legitimately missed, we'll come to a fine number of that we can just send them a check and let them fix the damage, right? Or if they're calling because let's say we missed something wrong with the transmission or the engine, which is not really part of the CR. Ooh. Now we'll ask them like, hey, can you send it to a local dealership or another auction that's local and have them verify the damage and then give us a call. And if their claim is correct, then we'll either, if it's severely enough, we'll buy the car back or we'll leave it down there and run it at that auction. There's several different options of what we can do. That's kind of how we handle it. We try not to inherit vehicles. We're not in the business of buying and selling cars ourselves. We're just the middleman. So we want to try to make the dealer happy, so he'll buy more cars online, make sure that the customer is treated correctly, So that's kind of how
I had a good one the other day. This guy, so at an auction, guy buys the car, takes it back to his lot, does $1,000 worth of repairs on it. The guy that sold the car calls the auction and says, hey, I need that car back. Our deal fell through. So, both good customers, right? Everybody wants to keep the dealer happy and everybody wants the dealer to be a part of the gang. So I'm like, wow, that's a crazy story. So what did you do? And you could see the guy, the angst on his face. He was like, oh my gosh, it was the most crazy thing. So these kinds of things, in my opinion, are really interesting because like the dealer, I think the dealer knows more than he acts like he knows sometimes. I'm not saying that to be mean. If you don't have the title to a car and you're a dealer and you take it, you buy it at an auction, you get it back to your lot, you don't have the title. Are you going to drop $1,000 in that car? And why? And I think, you getting into these kinds of, everybody's got a story. It's always a problem, but it's almost like maybe we should try to educate the dealer base on some of the fundamentals that we know are going to be a problem. I look at these auctions every sale day, Rich. I don't know if you do this, but I bet $1 you do. Maybe 10, 15 minutes before sale starts, you get all the dealers together and you tell them, hey, this is going to be a banger sale and we're going to give away a TV and an ice cooler and a Yeti cup and go buy cars. Well, what if we took that time and we just said, hey, here's a new one. If you buy a car and there's no title, when you get it back to your lot, don't do anything to it. Just stop. And now raise your hand if you know that.
Oh, they all know it.
Wouldn't that not be the best time?
It would be the best time, but they all know it. So, and that's a perfect segue. And I've had people come into me and they'll argue, hey, I bought this car and I need the title. I bought it 30 days ago. I bought it 45 days ago and I need the title. I said, okay, you can arbitrate it. No, I can't. I'm like, excuse me, you don't have a title. It's part of the rules. Well, I sold the car. Oh, that's a different problem. Did you know you're not supposed to sell the car? And then they don't want to hear it. Like they simply shift the gears and usually it starts turning into a battle because what did I do? I just used the title of my book. You're doing it wrong. I just called out the dealer and said, hey, you're doing it wrong. You're not supposed to sell that car. So I try to steer away from that. Here's a little trick I've learned that works really, really well. And we'll use Aaron's example. Hey, I bought this car. You said it's a 3.8. It's at my lot. It's a 2.8. To cut to the chase really fast, I ask one simple question. And I let the dealer vent, and then I say, okay, what problem are we trying to solve? And that cuts straight to the chase. Okay, are you unhappy? Do you want money? Do you just want to vent? And usually they take a deep breath and they're like, and then they'll give me their answer exactly what they want. And then I don't have to sit here and do the dance of, well, do we need to do pictures? Was it Ty, the transport guy? Was it Aaron at check-in? And here's another thing I look at too. human beings are writing these condition reports. You might say there's an app and you might say there's photos, but it's still a human being that's writing that CR. And we talk about the personality profiles all the time. I do. I look at the disc and I use those 4. All right. If you are a yellow personality and you're writing a CR, you're apt to not be as detailed as somebody on the opposite side of the spectrum, which would be in the blue, the compliance thing. And a blue is going to say, yes, I measured that dent. It's exactly 2 inches. Don't argue with me. Okay. That door panel has been repainted. I know my thing. I was taught, I studied this. Don't argue with me. A dominant person is just going to say, look, I'm right. You're wrong. Just move on, move along. And then you're going to have your green, who's a steady, who's going to take the time and sit and talk to them. But each one of those people is going to write that card differently. I can guarantee you that if you talk to a blue that wrote that as a 3.8, you're not going to win that argument because they did it right. You're in trouble. But then you're trying to negotiate with that blue personality. And if you're a yellow personality trying to argue with that blue personality, or a blue on blue, and like, now I'm right, it's a 2.8. I just did it myself. And I've done this for 15 years. I used to work at an auction. I've been at auction. I've bought auctions 20 years. You hear this stuff from dealers all the time. And now you start getting into really what it is a personality contest. That's why I asked the question, what's the problem we're trying to solve? And you cut through the chase.
Wow. Is that how you do it, Aaron?
No, I want all blue inspectors though. That would be
yes, you do. And people asking why would you do a personality test? Because if you need accurate information on something like a CR, you want all blue inspectors. It's dead on. Now you don't want all blue people in your customer service department.
No, you don't want all red either.
No.
Yeah.
So let's do this. Let's shift gears real quick and let's talk about earlier in the introduction of the podcast. Are we doing okay on time?
Yes.
You got a couple minutes with us, Aaron? All right. So let's talk about in the intro of the podcast. You said that you were certified. You went through Auction Academy. Auction Academy. How has that helped you with writing CRs? Why would somebody want to go through Auction Academy if they're a CR manager?
What I got out of it, like if anybody wants to go into it as a CR manager or any kind of auction manager, what it does is it just opens your eyes to the different parts of the industry, right? Like, if you're a CR writer, like you're kind of, for me, I was kind of stuck in that world, right? I was like, CRs, or registration, dealing with both. That was kind of my road, right? And if you ever want to kind of advance out of those two fields, maybe become an AGM or a GM or one of those roles down the road, right? You kind of need more of the auction background, like of what actually happens at an auction, right? There's the titles department. I had no clue like how much in detail titles field is. What Auction Academy does or did for me was it kind of opened my eyes to different parts of the auction world. It allowed me to see like more of the financial side of it, how auction access works, how titling works, how transport works, how the different, like there's so many different transport companies out there, and like how they handle things, how different GMs handle their auctions. When we went and visited, that was kind of like I kind of watched their personalities of like how they treated their employees and how an AGM treated their employees, like just how everybody kind of reacts, right? How did that auction get to where they're at? Why are they selling number one online? What are they doing different than we are? What are they offering different than we are? So Auction Academy opened that up and kind of allowed me to kind of explore those worlds a little bit behind the scenes kind of and be introduced into the industry leaders that are leading the way in that kind of stuff, like Auction Edge, like I had no idea who Auction Edge was until I went to Auction Academy. So it's a really good program. And with that, you're also in there in classes that are of people that are different roles in the auction. I have an operations manager that's sitting next to me, or another registration manager over here, an arbitration manager that was also in the class, or, an owner and operator was in my class, 2 GMs and owner operators were in my class. So like you get to meet them guys and talk to them like after. Auction Academy is really good, but like you also like just sitting back at the hotel around dinner or whatever, like talking to them and like asking questions, how they do stuff or how they handle a situation that we might have had. That's where I literally learned a lot more as well. So it's a good stepping stone for everybody.
I like to call that relationships.
Yes.
It's the Relationship Academy. And that's what I heard from it. Yeah. And Aaron, you and I met early last year, and I was consulting and helping different auctions, and yours was one of the auctions, and we brought a handful of auctions together and we were talking. And the one thing that stuck with me and the feedback I got from everybody, I said, what was the best part about what we did? And they enjoyed everything. Don't get me wrong, but they always said what you just said, sitting down, having those face-to-face conversations over a beer, a drink, a cup of coffee, dinner, or at lunch, whatever it was, that's when the stuff really solidified and people made things. So I was sitting here going through and I was going, okay, you're telling me you're learning about titles. Well, hell, I can do that at the auction. Why would I need to go to Auction Academy to learn about titles? And then as you transitioned, you started saying, well, then I was sitting next to somebody else who had a different perspective. And then I got to go to an auction where I got to see somebody else and I get to see what they're doing. So I would encourage anybody, if you have the opportunity, if you're listening to this podcast, go talk to your general manager. If you're not the general manager, if you are the general manager, find a way to get to Auction Academy. If you've got managers or employees that want to learn and want to grow, send them to Auction Academy. It's an investment that's worth it. The best thing you can do for your people is invest in them. Give them the opportunity to learn and grow because they're going to bring it back. And a good friend of mine said, hey, why would I waste all this money on sending somebody off to get the school off for training? Because what if they quit? But what if they stay?
Well, to touch on that, right? Like me as an employee, my general manager believed in me and invested in me. So why would I not turn around and invest myself into that company, right? That's kind of the point. And if you believe in your employee or employees, to send them to a class like this, or even to just invest them in any way. If it's not Auction Academy, there's other ways, right?
Heck yeah.
But to invest in them and make them believe in themselves, they're going to be a lot better employee for you and the company as a whole.
I like to call that what you give away is what you keep.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, and I think bringing this full circle, it goes back to what Ty said. That's networking. How did I meet Ty? I met Ty at a conference. What were we doing? We were drinking a cup of coffee in the hallway together, and we started talking. We built a relationship. Had we been working together? Who knows? Believe it or not, I did know Ty inadvertently before I ever met him. He was a transporter that came to the auction I used to run, and he actually recorded a podcast live from my parking lot, which is a whole other story. And then, Aaron, the way I met you is I met you through consulting, but how did I get to know you better? It was sitting down at dinner, and when we were traveling together and we started having conversations, and then lo and behold, you and I ended up at the same conference together. Then we started talking, we hung out, we went to dinner, we started building these relationships. I can tell you, I want to thank you right now, Aaron. I think I've probably learned more from you than you've learned from me. And so I appreciate having you be in the industry, sharing us with us and going back and walking us down memory lane of sticks and stones and CRs and 4-inch dents on cars and I forgot about the Ware Square. That was pretty awesome.
Square, yeah.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Meet Me at the Gate. I hope the conversation has helped to fuel your drive and equip you with insights to steer your team towards success. Remember, the road to success is always under construction. And until next time, keep your engines revving and your gas tanks full.